The shimmer of my tears still clung to my cheek when my daughter-in-law mocked me at my husband's funeral. Still holding the edge of his casket, I blinked once, slow enough not to break in front of our family. As the wetness cooled, it stopped feeling like loss and started feeling like clarity. While the room turned politely away, I felt every silence lean harder on my back. The same woman married to my son still lives on the accounts I opened in trust. That's when I wiped my face, stood tall, and reminded her whose name she cashes from. Before we begin, may I ask, where in this big, beautiful world are you listening from? It's always a quiet honor to know who's sharing this space. Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. The atmosphere in the funeral reception hall is oppressive, heavy with the kind of silence that only death can bring. The murmur of hushed voices blends with the clink of silver trays being set down, their polished surfaces catching the dim light. Catered finger foods sit untouched, their carefully arranged colors now just a distraction from the heaviness in the air. There's a hollow comfort to the scene, people offering pleasantries that feel like foreign languages, their smiles tight, eyes avoiding the center of it all. Evelyn stands near the casket, her hands folded in front of her, the faintest tremble in her fingers, betraying the calm her face is trying so hard to project. Her gaze lingers on the polished wood, eyes tracing the carved edges as if searching for something she can't name. She dabs her eyes again, the movement so subtle, you almost miss it. Her mascara, thick and black, has already run down her face in faint, jagged trails. The makeup only accentuates the tear tracks, the evidence of grief staining her otherwise composed expression. Marla, in a black dress that doesn't fit quite right, passes by the scene, her heels clicking against the floor in that sound that feels too loud for such a quiet place. Her eyes flicker toward Evelyn, a smile that's far from kind spreading on her lips. She stops just long enough to offer her cruel observation. "You should have worn waterproof mascara, dear." The words hang in the air, bitter, like a slap that echoes without sound. Evelyn freezes for a moment, the mascara streaking further down her face as if it's the only visible sign of how much that simple sentence has hurt. Nearby, a few people hear the comment and glance away, some pretending not to notice, others pretending they didn't hear it at all. No one defends her. The room holds its breath. Eli, standing a few feet away, looks down at the floor, the weight of his silence somehow more powerful than words. His expression is unreadable, but the tension in his jaw is visible, muscles working under the strain. He says nothing, not even a glance toward Marla or Evelyn. The stillness around him is suffocating, but it's as if he's locked himself away from the rest of the room, as if he's stopped existing in it altogether. Naomi, who had been standing a little behind Evelyn, clenches her jaw at the remark. The muscles in her neck tighten, the flush creeping up her neck betraying how much the words have hit her, even though they weren't aimed at her. She steps forward, just slightly, as though considering saying something, anything to Marla. But then she exhales, slow and controlled, and decides against it. This isn't her fight, not yet. Evelyn wipes her tears gently, taking a long, steadying breath. Her hand trembles as it falls back to her side, her posture straightening. The dignity in her movement is forced, as if she's still trying to maintain something, some control over the crumbling pieces of herself. She stands tall for a moment, then casts a glance down at the casket, as though drawing strength from the lifeless body before her. Her shoulders sag as she exhales, an unspoken resignation settling in. She doesn't turn to face Marla, doesn't engage, but the stillness between them is more telling than any confrontation could ever be. There is a strange stillness that follows. People glance nervously around, as if they expect someone else to take charge, to do something about the tension that now fills the room like smoke. But no one does. No one moves to intervene. The reception, once a place for politeness and veiled grief, feels suddenly impossibly cold. As Evelyn's hands grip the edge of the casket, the thud of her heartbeat seems to echo louder in her chest. Her eyes never leave the polished wood, but in the distance, someone clears their throat. It could be an apology or an attempt at conversation. Evelyn doesn't hear it. She can't. The room is watching her, waiting for something, anything to break the silence. But Evelyn remains there, unmoving, as if she's already stepped away from this place, from this moment and into the abyss of her own mind. And then, just as quietly as it began, something shifts in the air. Naomi, eyes still fixed on Marla, lets out a breath. A small exhale that sounds almost like relief, but there's something else in it too. Something darker, more complex. The tension isn't over, it's only just begun. The house feels cold when Evelyn steps inside, the echo of her footsteps too loud for the emptiness. She hadn't expected it to feel like this. Not after the funeral, not after everything, but it's different now. She stands still for a moment in the doorway, inhaling the smell of her home, the faint scent of cologne mixed with a dusting of lavender. Thomas's absence settles on her like a heavy coat. She drapes it over her shoulders, an uncomfortable, unwelcome weight. The living room is exactly as it was the morning he passed. The same leather chair by the window, the same coffee table with the edges worn from years of use. It's all so painfully ordinary. Evelyn moves toward the study, her fingers brushing against the frames on the wall. Their smiles in the photographs are frozen, bright, like promises of a life that was never going to be. The thought sinks in like a stone in her stomach. She steps into the study. The desk is untouched, papers neatly stacked where Thomas had left them. It's here she finds the thick folder, its edge just visible from under the lamp. The weight of it feels significant, like a message she wasn't meant to see, or perhaps the one thing left that he'd wanted her to find. Evelyn pulls the folder out slowly, the rustle of paper the only sound in the room. She flips it open, and what she sees feels like a punch to the gut. Every account, bank accounts, insurance, property, all listed with her name, joint ownership, with her in full control, no caveats, no conditions, not a single mention of Marla anywhere, not even as a backup beneficiary. Her heart races as she flips through page after page, her fingers trembling slightly. She had known Thomas was careful, meticulous even. But this, the clarity of it all, there is no ambiguity, no safety net for anyone else. For a moment, it feels like the room is closing in on her, the edges of her vision darkening. She didn't know how much she'd wanted this, how much she needed this confirmation, until now. Evelyn leans back in the chair, the folder still open in front of her. The silence feels so thick, it presses against her chest. Thomas's decisions, his last move, are now hers to own. There's no going back from this, and yet it feels hollow. It's not what she'd imagined when they'd talked about the future, when she had promised to be his partner in everything. A knock on the door breaks her reverie. She doesn't have to look to know who it is. Evelyn! June's voice is soft but strong, calling from the other side of the door. You gonna say something? Evelyn closes the folder with a slow, deliberate motion, the sound of the paper folding into place like a weight settling. She stands up and opens the door, finding June standing in the hallway, a look of quiet concern on her face. Not yet, Evelyn says, her voice steady, even though she can feel the tremor in her hands. Let her feel steady first. June steps inside, her eyes flickering to the folder on the desk. She doesn't comment on it, but the question hangs there, unspoken. Instead, she moves toward the armchair, sits down, and waits. There's a certain understanding between them, a kind of unspoken pact that neither of them will rush this. Hours later, Evelyn sits at the small conference table in Howard's office, the low hum of fluorescent lights above her. She's gone over everything once already, but the clarity she seeks eludes her. Howard, sitting across from her, pushes a few papers toward her, each one confirming what she already knows. The paperwork is meticulous, just like Thomas. Every document, every transfer of assets, every bit of legal language. All of it falls into place with an almost eerie precision. Howard looks at her, his sharp gaze measuring. Everything is clean, no legal way around you, he says, his tone even. Evelyn's fingers curl around the edge of the table. She's heard those words before, in another context, in another time. But now they feel like an accusation. There's no way to change it, no room to escape from what she's become. She nods, silent, as the weight of his confirmation settles around her like a fog. The tension is thick between them, but there's something else too, a spark, something unspoken but undeniable. Howard's eyes linger a moment too long, and Evelyn feels the pull of it, the heavy understanding of where this path leads. She stands abruptly, pushing back her chair. "I'll take care of it," she says, her voice harder than she intends. "Thank you, Howard." Howard doesn't move at first. He watches her as she gathers her things, but says nothing. Evelyn pauses at the door, her hand on the handle, and looks back. "Just make sure no one else gets a chance to change their minds," he adds quietly. Evelyn doesn't respond. She steps out, leaving the office in her wake, but the finality of his words echoes in her mind. The door clicks shut behind her, and with it, a new chapter begins. The house feels colder now. Evelyn stands in the doorway of the living room, her fingers tracing the edge of the doorframe as she listens to the muted sound of the doorbell. She can almost hear the rhythm of her own pulse in the space between the chime and the quiet shuffle of footsteps. A tightness in her chest settles as she opens the door, letting Marla and Eli inside. The air in the room feels thick, charged, like they all know the weight of what's about to unfold. She watches them walk in, trying not to let the exhaustion seep into her face. The whiskey on the shelf gleams under the dim light, a reflection of what used to be Thomas's favorite bourbon. A silent reminder of a man who can't speak for himself anymore. "Nice place," Marla says, glancing around with the same careful disinterest she always wears. Her smile is thin, polite, too polite. "Help yourselves," Evelyn replies. Her voice doesn't waver. "I'll grab glasses." She moves to the kitchen, her fingers brushing over the clean countertops. There's nothing to do but wait. When she returns, Marla and Eli are standing by the shelf, their eyes lingering over the bottles. "I think it's time we started formalizing the inheritance process," Marla says, her voice a little too bright. She's clearly trying to sound like the concerned relative, but Evelyn can feel the tension in her words. It's all a performance, but Evelyn's done with pretending. "We already did," Evelyn replies, the words sharp and clear. Marla raises an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by the bluntness. "What do you mean?" Without answering her, Evelyn reaches for the thick folder she's left on the coffee table. She opens it, the papers rustling as she slides it across to them with a deliberate calm. She watches as they both lean in, the papers gliding under their fingertips. The titles, deeds, and summaries fill the space between them, silent and unforgiving. Eli's hand pauses over the page, his eyes scanning the words like he doesn't believe them at first. Marla's face slowly drains of color. There's no mistaking the moment when they realize what she's done. Evelyn watches them closely, a quiet satisfaction settling over her as she sees the shock and confusion on their faces. "You're not on a single document," she says, her voice quiet but firm. "You never were." The words hang in the air, sharp and heavy. Marla blinks rapidly, her eyes darting from the pages to Evelyn, like she's trying to process the impossible. Eli's face twitches, his jaw tightens. He looks at the papers, then back at Evelyn, searching for something, some kind of mistake. But there's nothing. Marla opens her mouth, but the words seem to get lost. Her face hardens, the mask of calm slipping just enough to reveal the frustration underneath. "This isn't what we discussed," she says, though there's a nervous edge to her voice now. "We were meant to be partners in this. You know that." Evelyn's fingers curl around the arm of the chair, and she feels the weight of the moment shift. The air feels thick with the weight of what she's done, but she doesn't flinch. Not this time. "I know exactly what we discussed," she says, her eyes never leaving Marla's. "But you didn't listen." Eli shifts uncomfortably beside her, his gaze still flicking over the papers, though he hasn't said a word since the truth sank in. Evelyn wonders if he even knew, if he was as complicit in this as Marla had been. He finally looks up at her, his face unreadable. "This isn't how Thomas would have wanted this," Eli says quietly, but Evelyn knows better than to listen to that. It's a deflection, an appeal to something that doesn't exist anymore. The man he once was, the man they thought they knew, is gone. Evelyn stands, slowly, her eyes never leaving theirs. The calm she feels now is unnerving. "This is how it is," she says, her voice colder than she intended. "It's all done. It was Thomas's decision, and I'm carrying it out. You have no claim here." For a long moment, there's silence. The only sound the faint creak of the old wood beneath their feet. The reality of it all settles in. Marla's lips press into a thin line, her eyes narrowing in an expression of barely contained rage. But Evelyn doesn't flinch. Not anymore. Eli steps forward, a glimmer of something in his eyes, a last, desperate attempt to hold on to something that never truly belonged to him. You can't just... Goodbye, Eli, Evelyn cuts in, her voice crisp, final. The words feel like a door slamming shut, and with it, any hope of reconciliation evaporates. As they stand there, staring back at her, Evelyn feels an overwhelming sense of clarity. This moment, this final act, has been a long time coming. And as she watches them turn to leave, her heart remains steady. The door closes behind them, and Evelyn knows this. Whatever happens next, it will be on her terms. Evelyn sits at the kitchen table. The printer hums softly behind her as the pages feed through, one by one. The sound is almost soothing, a steady rhythm that matches the pulse in her chest. She watches the paper stack grow, a cold reminder of the numbers she's carried for years without ever saying a word. The files lay in front of her, each one a meticulous record of Eli's life: paid daycare, private school tuition, 2 car down payments, all the things Marla had never mentioned. Evelyn's fingers trace the typed numbers. She doesn't need to look at the totals. She knows them by heart. A decade of quiet support, funds flowing without a word of acknowledgement. No thanks, no appreciation, just the assumption that Evelyn was happy to keep things in the background, unnoticed. Marla had always been the one to speak up, the one to take credit. I funded the lifestyle, she'd said, her voice bright and self-assured, like it was a truth everyone would believe. But Evelyn had carried the weight, silently, without ever asking for anything in return. There had been no glamour in it, just a slow, steady drain of her own resources to keep their world intact. The thought tastes bitter now. She picks up the first stack of papers, flipping through the pages with a kind of grim satisfaction. This isn't just a tally of money, it's a record of everything she'd sacrificed for them, for Eli, for Marla. Every little thing that had gone unnoticed, taken for granted. Every dollar spent with no recognition. Her phone buzzes on the table, a sharp interruption to the quiet. It's June. Evelyn answers without hesitation, her voice steady as always. She's going to choke on her own lies when you lay that down, June's voice says, blunt as ever. Evelyn exhales, her fingers pausing over the last sheet of paper. She hadn't intended to make a show of it, hadn't wanted to take the gloves off this soon, but now she's almost ready. She closes the file with a soft snap, the decision clear in her mind. The spreadsheets she's created are clean, neat, a cold, hard catalog of their lives, laid bare for anyone who chooses to see. She adds a final column, the last number running across the screen like the last word in a sentence. The title of the spreadsheet is simple: Hartley Subsidy Program, closed. She stares at the words for a long time, the finality of it sinking in. Her hand hovers over the save button. There's something almost satisfying about the finality of it, the act of putting it all away in a neat folder. She clicks it with a deliberate sense of closure. Evelyn leans back in the chair, letting the silence settle. There's nothing more to do now. She can already imagine the shock on Marla's face when she sees the printouts, the silence that will stretch between them when the truth is laid bare. Evelyn stands and walks over to the filing cabinet. The drawers open with a soft, almost reluctant sigh, as if the cabinet itself knows what's about to be stored inside. She places the file carefully among the others, the weight of her decisions pressing down on her chest. But she's not done. Not yet. She reaches for the next file, the one with Howard's name on it, just in case. The thought lingers as she places it in the same drawer. She doesn't want to think about what's coming. She doesn't want to consider the fallout, the inevitable confrontation when Marla comes for her. But she will be ready. When Evelyn shuts the drawer, it clicks into place with a finality that matches the quiet that now fills the house. It's done. And the next move, when it comes, will be hers to make. Evelyn watches the sunlight stretch lazily across the porch as Naomi settles into the chair across from her. The wooden slats beneath them creak, the house exhaling a steady sigh as the day carries on. The aroma of grilled cheese sandwiches drifts through the air, warm and comforting, familiar in the way that only simple things can be. Evelyn cuts into her sandwich slowly, the crust crackling, and hands Naomi a half, their fingers brushing for a moment. Naomi takes it without a word, and for a few seconds, the world outside seems far away. The porch swing sways gently, the distant hum of traffic muffled by the protective walls of the house. There's a sense of peace here, a stillness that feels like the calm before the storm. Naomi takes a bite, her gaze shifting to the horizon as she chews, lost in her own thoughts. Finally, she puts her sandwich down, her hands folded in her lap. The words are hesitant at first, like they've been stuck behind a wall for too long. "I just want to know I can still come to you," Naomi says, her voice soft but steady, like a question she needs answered more than anything else. Evelyn meets her eyes, the tenderness in her chest sharp and immediate. There's something in Naomi's tone, something unspoken, that makes Evelyn pause. She feels the weight of the question, the quiet desperation in it. For a moment, the world shrinks to just the two of them, the space between them filled with the trust that Naomi's seeking, that Evelyn is still here, still her grandmother. "You always can," Evelyn replies, her voice steady, the words clear and unwavering. "You're not them." Naomi exhales, a soft sound. As if she's been holding her breath, she nods, but Evelyn can see the relief in her eyes, the small, almost imperceptible shift that happens when someone is finally allowed to let go of the weight they've been carrying alone. Evelyn's hand hovers for a moment, her fingers brushing the edge of her phone. It's an impulse, something she's already decided in the back of her mind but never quite said out loud. She takes the device and quietly opens the app for the 529 college account. The numbers are already filled in, the account name typed with practiced care. Naomi's name, secure, separate from everything else. It's a quiet promise she's making, a future that belongs to Naomi alone. Evelyn presses, submit. The sound of the transaction final, a tiny chime of certainty. Her eyes lift to Naomi's, watching as she absent-mindedly picks at her sandwich, blissfully unaware of the shift in the air. Evelyn feels a sudden clarity, a calm that washes over her. This is how things should have always been. For Naomi, for her, something different, something earned. June's voice cuts through the quiet, sharp and sure, though it's only in Evelyn's mind. "You're rewarding decency." "Good." Evelyn doesn't answer, but her heart swells with something far stronger than satisfaction. She leans back in her chair, watching Naomi, the world outside moving in slow motion. "It's more than they ever did for me," Evelyn finally says, her voice quiet but resolute. There's no bitterness in her words, just truth, plain and simple. The weight of years spent carrying the lives of others is gone now, replaced by something she never allowed herself to feel. Hope. Real hope, not the hollow kind. Naomi looks up then, her eyes bright with a question, but Evelyn holds her gaze, steady and sure. There's a future here for Naomi, a future she'll build from the ground up, without anyone else's hands on it. For the first time in a long while, Evelyn feels the sting of tears welling up in her eyes. She blinks them away. A small, fleeting moment of vulnerability. But the smile that follows is steady, unshaken. And then, just as the moment settles between them, Evelyn's phone buzzes again. She glances down, the weight of it heavy. A message from Howard. "We need to talk." Evelyn's heart skips. She doesn't have to open it to know what it means. The storm is coming, and she's ready. The phone rings relentlessly, its sharp tone cutting through the stillness of Evelyn's day. She doesn't answer. She's learned not to engage with the noise. Marla has started calling relatives, spinning her own version of events, feeding them a story wrapped in her brand of concern. Evelyn can almost hear her voice, laced with faint sympathy, through the thin walls of the house. She's not coping well, Marla says, her words floating over the phone line like a subtle poison. She's isolating Eli, shutting him out. There's a pause, just long enough to make the accusation settle. She's sabotaging Naomi's future. Evelyn feels the weight of the words, but she doesn't flinch. She doesn't respond. She lets the silence speak for her, a quiet protest to the lies being spun. The phone buzzes again. Howard. She answers it, her voice cool as always. "You're legally protected," Howard reassures her, his tone firm, the weight of it grounding her. "Just let it play out." Let them dig their own graves. There's a pause, the sound of a chair scraping as he shifts. They'll expose themselves in time. Evelyn leans back in her chair, her fingers trailing along the edge of her coffee cup. She's never been one for revenge, but the thought of letting Marla twist the narrative, of watching it all fall apart without lifting a finger, feels like the right move. She doesn't need to defend herself. The truth will eventually rise to the surface. Her only role now is to stay quiet, to remain steady while they implode under the weight of their own deceit. The silence of the house stretches on, thick and heavy, and then something shifts. Her phone buzzes again. This time, it's Naomi. Evelyn opens the message, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips as she reads the words Naomi has posted. My grandmother has always been more family than anyone. For a moment, Evelyn doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. The truth, simple and pure, radiates from Naomi's message. It's a quiet but powerful defiance against everything Marla has tried to spin. Evelyn's heart swells, a wave of pride crashing over her. Naomi has chosen to speak her truth, and in doing so, she's destroyed the narrative Marla has so carefully crafted. From across the room, she hears the distant hum of the television, the flickering light from the screen casting shadows on the walls. June's voice cuts through the air, low and satisfied. That kid just torched their narrative. Evelyn smiles, the weight of the world lightening for a brief moment. June is right. Naomi's words are a defiant flame, and Marla's carefully constructed house of lies is starting to crumble. Evelyn sets the phone down, her hands steady. For the first time in a long while, she feels a sense of peace settle over her. The storm that Marla started is shifting, and Evelyn is no longer at its mercy. It's time to watch the pieces fall into place. But then the doorbell rings. It's a soft, tentative chime, but it carries a weight that immediately fills the room. Evelyn doesn't move, doesn't rush to answer. She knows who it is. The silence has been broken. The next move is hers, and she's ready. Evelyn arrives precisely on time, her heels clicking against the marble floor of the grand hallway as she enters. The house feels too large tonight, the long corridors stretching in silence as if awaiting a performance. She's dressed immaculately, black dress tailored, her hair pinned back in a simple knot that suggests both sophistication and control. She surveys the room before stepping inside, absorbing the scene with the practiced stillness she's perfected over the years. Marla's dinner party, her olive branch, as it's been described. The air is thick with the subtle perfume of tension, but it's something Evelyn has become intimately familiar with. Marla is already at the front, the perfect picture of grace, wearing a smile that barely hides the simmering frustration beneath. The other guests linger in the background, pretending not to notice the underlying discord. Evelyn's eyes flicker to Eli, standing just behind Marla, his face a study in forced patience. We've had our tensions, Marla begins, her voice floating sweetly through the air, carefully chosen words laced with an almost palpable sweetness. But we're all adults here. Family is important. We've all had our parts to play, and tonight we put the past behind us. Evelyn watches, her gaze sharp as the words roll off Marla's tongue. It's all rehearsed, the motions, the masks. Marla is the picture of civility, a leader of the performance she's orchestrated. But Evelyn can see through it. She always has. Her pulse doesn't quicken. She feels only a slow burning certainty. Evelyn stands, her chair scraping softly against the floor, and the room falls into a brief, uneasy silence. All eyes turn toward her, some curious, some apprehensive. The edges of her mouth lift, though the smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. She unfolds a small piece of paper from her pocket, her words written out precisely as she intended, and she begins to read aloud, her voice steady, clear, unshaken. This isn't reconciliation, she says, her eyes sweeping over the room, lingering for a moment on Marla, who visibly stiffens. It's a performance, a show for everyone else who doesn't know what's really happening here. The words hang in the air, heavy, like a stone thrown into a placid pond. The ripples stretch across the room, but no one speaks immediately. Evelyn takes a slow, deliberate step forward, reaching into her bag to pull out the final act. She hands a set of neatly organized estate plan documents to Marla, Eli, and the others at the table. The paper is crisp, each page a testament to her final decision. There's a long pause, a moment where time seems to stretch thin, and then Eli speaks, his voice tight, betraying the uncertainty simmering beneath his words. "You're doing this for control," he says, his gaze locked on her with an intensity she doesn't flinch from. The accusation lands between them, but Evelyn isn't moved by it. She knows what's at stake, knows the role she's playing. "No," Evelyn replies, her voice unwavering. "I'm doing it for relief." The truth cuts through the air, sharp and clean. She watches their reactions, Marla's face faltering, Eli's brow furrowing, the others in the room waiting for the next move. She turns away without another word, her movements composed, as she steps toward the door. There's no need for speeches, no need for confrontation. She's already done what she came to do. She's released the final piece of this game. The rest will play out on its own. The sound of voices behind her rises, but Evelyn doesn't stop. She steps outside, her heels clicking against the pavement, the night air cold against her skin. And as the door closes behind her, the silence of the evening settles in, thick and final. The dinner continues, but Evelyn has already made her exit. The phone vibrates on the kitchen counter, its harsh buzz cutting through the quiet of the house. Evelyn glances at the screen. It's Howard, his name flashing under the dim light. She answers it immediately, the tension in her shoulders easing only slightly as she hears his calm, steady voice on the other end. "Everything's secure," Howard says, his voice as firm as ever. "No access was granted. Marla tried to breach the old joint investment records. It's been flagged." Evelyn doesn't react outwardly, but inside, a quiet satisfaction builds. She's been expecting this. Marla's hunger for control, her constant need to pry, was inevitable. Evelyn had always known this day would come, where the last vestiges of shared authority would be tested. But what Marla doesn't know is that Evelyn has already anticipated every move. "I've tightened everything," Howard continues, a note of approval in his tone. "I've locked down all access. Passwords have been changed. And I've revoked her power of attorney access. You're covered." Evelyn breathes in slowly, absorbing the relief of hearing the confirmation, but there's no sense of triumph. There's only a deep, quiet knowing that the walls she's built have held strong. The pieces are moving exactly as she's planned. It's a game of patience now, of waiting. "Good," Evelyn replies, her voice measured, composed. "Thank you." Howard's tone softens, though it's still tinged with professional distance. "You're in control, Evelyn. Let them think they can break through. They won't." She doesn't respond. Instead, she sets the phone down, her eyes briefly closing. The quiet in the room feels almost oppressive now. It's like standing at the edge of something vast and still, knowing the world is shifting around her, but not needing to rush. She hears the faint ping of a message coming through on her phone. She picks it up, seeing Eli's name on the screen. The message is short, almost apologetic in its simplicity. She was just trying to understand. Evelyn's hand curls around the phone, her nails digging into her palm as her jaw tightens. She stares at the words for a moment, an odd ache in her chest. Eli is always the mediator, the one who tries to soften everything, who seeks understanding in places where it no longer exists. But this time, Evelyn doesn't soften. She's done with explanations. She types her response slowly, her fingers moving with deliberation. She should have started by listening. There's no anger in her words, just cold clarity. The time for understanding has passed. She puts the phone down without a second thought, her heart steady now as she walks over to the desk. Her mind races over the final steps she needs to take, every action calculated, each moment leading her to this inevitable point. The wall she's built is unbreachable, and that thought gives her a kind of calm, an unspoken strength. The sound of the television in the living room fades as she hears June's voice from the doorway, low and warm with approval. "You're locking it all down. Proud of you," June says, her eyes gleaming with quiet pride. Evelyn doesn't turn to face her right away. She watches the light outside the window, the street lamps flickering faintly as the night deepens. The weight of her decision settles on her, but it doesn't feel burdensome. It feels like freedom. "Thank you," Evelyn finally says, her voice soft but resolute. She turns to look at June, offering her the smallest of smiles. There's no more need for explanations, no more need for validation. The walls are built. The battle has been won. But then, as if on cue, the doorbell rings, the sound cutting through the stillness, sharper now. Evelyn doesn't need to check the time to know that things are about to shift again. This doorbell is different. This is the knock that's coming for her next move. She doesn't move at once. She lets the silence stretch, taking a long breath. The walls are high, but the game isn't over yet. The doorbell rings again, and this time, it's not the prelude to a confrontation. It's Naomi standing on the threshold with an air of quiet determination. Her face is pale, eyes wide with the kind of unease that makes Evelyn's heart clench. Naomi is standing there, her body language stiff. But there's something else, something Evelyn has seen too many times before. A child who knows more than they should, who's been forced to navigate a world that wasn't ready for them to grow up so fast. Mom tried to open a custodial account with my name, Naomi says, her voice quiet but full of weight. The words hang in the air like an accusation Evelyn has been dreading, but always knew would come. Naomi's mother, Marla, hadn't just crossed a line. She'd tried to steal control of her daughter's future, to keep her tethered to her, as if Naomi were just another possession to be controlled. Evelyn takes a slow breath, her instincts kicking in. "You're staying here tonight," she says, the words slipping out before she even considers them. It's not a question, it's a decision. One that Naomi doesn't need to argue with. The silence that follows feels dense, almost as if Naomi is waiting for something more. Evelyn knows what she's thinking. What comes next? What happens now? Naomi hesitates, her gaze flicking between Evelyn and the door behind her. "I might want to stay longer," she says, her voice thick with a vulnerability she doesn't often show. It's a quiet plea, the kind of offer that feels both tentative and desperate, as though she's asking for something Evelyn knows she has the power to give. Evelyn's gaze softens, the layers of hardened resolve peeling away as she steps toward her granddaughter. She places a hand gently on Naomi's shoulder, a silent promise, and speaks without hesitation. "We'll make that happen," Evelyn says, her voice warm, steady. "You'll stay as long as you need." Naomi's eyes flicker with something that might be relief, or maybe it's just hope. She's always been strong, but there are cracks in that strength now, cracks Evelyn has watched widen over the years. Naomi's been running on her own for too long, caught in the crossfire of battles she never asked to fight. Without another word, Evelyn pulls out her phone and dials the school's counselor. The conversation is quick, efficient. She explains the situation, the need for Naomi's immediate change of residence, the urgency in her voice clear but composed. "Change of residence," she repeats, confirming the words as she types out a note to file with the school's records, effective immediately. As she ends the call, Evelyn feels a strange sense of calm settling in. There are so many layers to peel away, so much to rebuild. But this is where it starts. Naomi needs a sanctuary, and Evelyn is more than willing to offer it. Howard's name pops up on her phone next. She answers with a steady breath. "Update the emergency contacts," Evelyn says, without preamble. "Make sure Naomi is listed under my name. No one else." "Done," Howard replies, his voice crisp. "Anything else?" "Just make sure it's all in order," she says. Her eyes still on Naomi, who's sitting at the kitchen table now, her fingers twisted nervously around the edges of a napkin. Evelyn wants to say more, but she knows that some things can't be rushed. Naomi will need time, she'll need trust, and Evelyn will be there, every step of the way. She ends the call and walks over to Naomi, sitting down beside her. Naomi doesn't speak, but the soft weight of her hand resting on Evelyn's is more than enough to convey what they both know. "We'll take it one day at a time," Evelyn says, her voice low, soothing. "But you're safe now, and that's what matters." Naomi nods, the quiet acceptance in her eyes telling Evelyn everything she needs to know. She doesn't need to be told she's right. Naomi understands the gravity of what's been set in motion. As the night deepens, the world outside seems distant. For the first time in a long while, Evelyn feels like she's done something that will last, something she can't take back. She's created a space where Naomi can breathe, a place to rebuild what's been broken. But as the final light flickers out, The shadow of Marla's influence lingers at the edge of Evelyn's mind. The fight isn't over. It's only just begun. The papers are spread out before Evelyn, their weight pulling at her focus. She leans forward, fingers steady as they trace the lines of the deed adjustment. The words are simple, clear. She's naming Naomi as the contingent property heir, securing a future for her granddaughter that won't be overshadowed by anyone else's claims. The pen feels foreign in her hand, but it's the same action, the same decision she's made so many times before, except now, it's final. Naomi will have what Evelyn couldn't protect for herself. She doesn't hesitate. With one fluid motion, the ink is sealed. Next comes the will. Evelyn flips through the pages, each word once crafted in trust, now revised in the quiet certainty of her present. It's a task she has put off for too long, each revision marking a finalization of the change she's made, not just in property, but in herself. The list of names to be removed feels heavy in her chest. Marla and Eli are crossed out. Their names no longer allowed any claim to her estate. There is no bitterness in it, just the sharp finality of what's necessary. The world has shifted, and with it, Evelyn's sense of what she can and can't give. The house she thought she'd own, the legacy she'd once hoped to leave, is not hers to define anymore. It's Naomi's. Evelyn knows it. Naomi knows it. And in this quiet, calculated moment, she seals their future together. As the ink dries, Evelyn feels a quiet sense of release. It's not a victory, it's a freedom. The kind of peace that comes only after you've closed a door that once seemed wide open. She stands and moves to the living room, the air cool against her skin as she steps out onto the porch. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the yard, and Evelyn takes a deep breath. There's a new sense of purpose here, one she's been cultivating in the spaces between the battles, in the hours spent away from the noise. A call from June breaks the silence. "You're giving to people who see you," June says, her voice warm but laced with admiration. "The shelter, the kids, this is how it should be. You're doing good." Evelyn doesn't need to answer. June has always known the kind of strength Evelyn has, the kind that doesn't need loud declarations to be understood. She's been working with the shelter for months now, donating her time, her resources, in ways she never had before. It's not about recognition, it's about impact, about making sure there are other spaces, other voices that can rise up in the same way Naomi has. Later that evening, Naomi's friends arrive for the study night. The group fills the house with soft laughter and the shuffle of textbooks, the quiet hum of work being done in a safe space. It's a scene Evelyn never expected to create, but here she is, with Naomi at the center of it all. They study together, but there's more than just academics at play. It's about community, about rebuilding a life that never really had a foundation. Naomi comes into the living room later, her eyes tired but content, her face flushed with the warmth of companionship. Evelyn smiles at her, offering a small nod as she watches her granddaughter talk to her friends. For the first time in a long while, Evelyn feels something like hope, real hope, untainted by the bitterness of the past. Then the phone buzzes again. It's Eli's message. "You've changed." Evelyn stares at the words for a long moment, her thumb hovering over the screen. She doesn't respond immediately. In the silence, she realizes that the person Eli is seeing now, this new version of her, isn't the person he expected her to be. She's no longer the woman bound by obligations, by expectations that have kept her small. She's something else now, and Eli isn't ready for that. But she will be. She will always be ready. And for Naomi, for the future they're building, Evelyn knows this. Nothing will stop her from holding the door open, letting it swing wide for the next chapter to begin. The message lingers on her phone, unanswered, as the night grows deep. The house is quiet again, the walls solid around them. But Evelyn knows the real work has only just started. The air feels thick with resolve as Evelyn pulls the binder from the shelf, its contents heavy with years of silence and the truth no one had ever bothered to ask for. The pages are filled with receipts. Every bit of support she'd quietly provided, every gesture she'd made that had been ignored, even mocked, by the very people she had tried to help. She flips through the pages, her fingers steady but her heart still, as the weight of everything she's kept track of sits between her and the truth they'd always dismissed. Each paper tells the story of what she's given: the daycare payments for Eli, the school supplies for Naomi, the small acts of charity she'd made under the radar. It's all there, documented with careful precision, just in case anyone ever dared to question her integrity, her commitment to her family. She exhales slowly, the air thick with finality, and hands the binder to Howard. His brow raises slightly as he accepts it, but his expression is unreadable. Just in case they ever try to review the estate, Evelyn says, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. The words carry more weight than she intends, but she doesn't let them linger. Howard takes the binder without a word, his eyes scanning the top page before he looks back up at her. He nods, understanding without needing to ask any questions. "I'll make sure. It's all kept in order," he assures her, his tone businesslike. Evelyn doesn't need more than that. She trusts Howard to handle the legalities, to protect what's hers, what's Naomi's now. Later, June arrives, and Evelyn watches her flip through the binder, her eyes skimming over the meticulously kept records. She can almost hear June's thoughts, the quiet judgment of how long Evelyn has kept all this locked away. The weight of it, every silent year, every unacknowledged effort, finally laid bare. June's voice breaks the quiet. "You kept everything," June says, lifting her eyes from the pages. Her voice is tinged with admiration, but also disbelief. "Every little thing." Evelyn nods. The truth is clear as the paper in front of her. "They never read any of it," she replies quietly, her eyes distant, as if she's seeing the years stretching back in front of her. They never bothered to understand. And now, Evelyn knows, they never will. The words hang in the air between them, unsaid but understood. Evelyn doesn't need them to understand now. It's too late for that. Naomi enters the room then, her footsteps soft against the floor. She carries an old photo album, the pages worn from years of handling. She sits beside Evelyn, flipping through the pages, scanning the memories that are both hers and not hers. She stops on a photo of Eli as a boy, his small hand wrapped tightly around Evelyn's, his face full of the trust he would later abandon. She stares at it for a moment, then looks up at Evelyn. "I remember him like this," Naomi says softly, almost to herself. "This is who he used to be." Evelyn glances at the photo, her gaze lingering on the boy Eli had been, not the man he became. A twinge of something, regret perhaps, touches her chest. "Too bad he didn't bring that man to marriage," Evelyn says, her voice low and almost bitter. The words are out before she can stop them, the unspoken hurt too heavy to keep buried any longer. Naomi nods quietly, understanding more than she lets on. She picks up her phone and scans the photo, then carefully frames it, placing it on the shelf between them. Evelyn watches her granddaughter as she steps back, taking in the small act of preservation, of remembrance. Naomi is making her own peace with the past, just as Evelyn has, in her own way. But the ghosts of their shared history are not so easily exorcised. They are, after all, always with them. The doorbell rings again, and this time, Evelyn feels a flicker of something, apprehension perhaps. Her instincts are sharper than ever. Whoever is behind that door won't be here for tea and pleasantries, but she doesn't move right away. Instead, she takes a slow breath, the weight of the moment settling in. Whatever is next, Evelyn knows this. She's ready, and this time, she won't be caught off guard. Evelyn's fingers hover over the phone, the decision already made, but the finality of it still settling in her chest. She scrolls through the email from the mediation service, a scheduled meeting, all arranged for her and Marla, with Eli in tow, just as they'd suggested. It's meant to smooth things over, to try and find common ground. Evelyn's mouth tightens, the idea of sitting down at a table, pretending for the sake of appeasing them. Feels like a betrayal of everything she's worked for. With one deliberate swipe, she declines the mediation. No. She's done with their games. She attaches a copy of the finalized documents, the ones that have sealed Naomi's future, the ones that have excluded Marla and Eli from her life permanently. A last statement, written in ink, no more words needed. It's clear. The email is sent. Her phone buzzes almost immediately with a reply from Howard. "They have no standing," he writes, his words blunt, reassuring. "And you owe them nothing." Evelyn breathes in, her shoulders relaxing ever so slightly as she sets the phone down. The weight of the decisions she's made doesn't feel heavy anymore. It's simply done. The world feels quieter somehow. She turns her gaze toward Naomi, who's sitting at the kitchen table, quietly reading. Evelyn walks over to the counter, gathering ingredients to bake. The oven hums softly in the background as she measures flour, sugar, and butter, the rhythm of it grounding her. She makes lemon bars, a small personal thing for Naomi. Something sweet to mark the kind of legacy she now understands. Something that will stick, unlike the hollow promises of the past. Naomi stands and joins her in the kitchen, their movements falling into a quiet sync. They bake together, filling the room with the smell of citrus and warmth. Naomi's hand brushes against Evelyn's, and in that small touch, a quiet connection forms. This is where Evelyn finds her peace now, not in the noise of the past, but in these small, tender moments that truly matter. When the bars are done, they sit down at the kitchen table, their hands sticky with sugar and laughter. Naomi looks at her grandmother, the lines of tension from earlier gone. Evelyn smiles, the first real smile in months, a laugh escaping her before she can hold it back. "They keep trying to get a refund on what they never bought," June's voice cuts through the air. The words soft but laced with satisfaction. Evelyn lets out a full laugh this time, her shoulders shaking slightly. The sound feels good, familiar. A release of all the weight she's carried for so long. She has always been the one who holds everything together, but now it's different. Now she can let go. And in that moment, Evelyn realizes she hasn't heard her own laugh in months, perhaps even years. Naomi looks at her, the quiet affection in her eyes speaking volumes. She pulls out her phone, typing a message quickly before handing it to Evelyn. "You're the best woman I know," the text reads. Evelyn's breath catches for a moment. The words aren't just sweet, they're sincere. A gift, one Naomi has quietly given her, a gift she'll carry with her for the rest of her life. Evelyn's heart swells, and she nods slowly. "I'm just getting started," she says softly, the weight of the past slipping away like the warm light of the afternoon. But as the night falls, Evelyn can't shake the sense that there's more coming. Something else is waiting around the corner. She looks toward the door, the quiet stillness in the house, broken only by the faint rustle of Naomi's laughter in the background. And for the first time in a long while, Evelyn doesn't feel afraid. She feels ready. The gallery is quiet, bathed in soft light that casts long shadows against the walls. Evelyn steps in, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor. The low murmur of conversation hums in the background, but she's not listening. Her eyes are drawn to the far wall, where Naomi's tribute is displayed. It's a collection of memories, each carefully curated. Photos, journal entries, and designs. Fragments of a life Evelyn has lived but never fully seen reflected back at her. The images capture her through Naomi's eyes. Evelyn at different ages, some familiar, some foreign. There she is, in a corner of a crowded room, a quiet presence always in the background. Then another image, softer, with Naomi as a child. Evelyn's arms holding her steady against a storm. Her hands are calloused from years of doing the work that no one else would do. The text under the last photo reads, "For the woman who kept the roof over our heads and never asked for applause." The words hit Evelyn like a wave, the truth so simple and yet so hard to bear. She never needed the applause, never sought recognition for what she gave. But seeing it here, laid bare for all to see, something stirs inside her. A warmth that spreads from her chest out to her fingers, which are clasped tightly in front of her. Around her, the guests are quiet, their eyes glistening with unshed tears. They don't know her like Naomi does. They don't know the weight of the years or the sacrifices that came with them. But they understand the message, the tribute Naomi has created. It's a testament to something real, something that wasn't easily won. The silence deepens in the room as guests gather around, staring at the wall, the plaque. Evelyn doesn't flinch. She stays still, letting the moment settle into her bones. The air smells faintly of paint and the soft, lingering scent of flowers. Then, through the quiet, June's voice cuts through, barely a whisper, but one that Evelyn feels in her bones. That's how you win, June says, her tone rich with the weight of their shared history. Evelyn doesn't answer immediately. She simply smiles, the corners of her lips tugging upward in a way that feels almost foreign. June's words, simple yet undeniable, are the truth of it. This wasn't about winning in the traditional sense. It wasn't about a fight or a contest. It was about making sure Naomi knew what she deserved, about giving her the space to honor what had always been there. Evelyn's quiet strength, the strength to keep going when the world and the people in it had never acknowledged her for it. Marla's absence is noted by no one. There are no questions, no murmurs of speculation. She is simply not here. The thought barely registers in Evelyn's mind. There's no need to acknowledge it. There's only the now, the future, Naomi. As the last few guests wander off, Evelyn stands there, her hands folded, gazing at the exhibit. Naomi steps up beside her, her presence warm and close, and for the first time in a long while, Evelyn feels something stir in her heart. Naomi's fingers brush against hers, offering a quiet comfort. "They thought you were background," Naomi says softly, her voice full of both reverence and resolve. "I made you the frame." Evelyn turns to face her granddaughter, her heart full, and she can't help but smile. In this room, in this moment, Naomi has done more than honor her. She's lifted her up in a way Evelyn never could have imagined. It's a quiet victory, but one that means everything. Evelyn places a hand on Naomi's shoulder, her voice soft but strong. "You always did see me." And Naomi smiles, the bond between them unspoken but undeniable. The walls of the gallery seem to fade as the night stretches on, but Evelyn knows this. No matter what happens next, they've built something that can't be undone. A legacy that isn't just about what she's done, but about what Naomi will do next. As they stand there, side by side, Evelyn feels the first real peace she's known in years. She knows it's not over, but for now, it's enough. The phone buzzes on the kitchen counter, the soft vibration a quiet disruption in the otherwise peaceful morning. Evelyn reaches for it without thinking, her eyes still heavy from the night, the quiet triumph of Naomi's exhibit still lingering in her chest. It's Eli. The message reads, "I know it's too late, but I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve this." For a moment, Evelyn just stares at the words, her thumb hovering over the screen, the weight of his apology sitting heavy in the palm of her hand. It's strange, the way an apology can carry so much. So many years of silence, of hurt, of attempts to fix things that were broken beyond repair. A simple text, simple words, couldn't undo it. But there's something in them, an acknowledgement that's been absent for too long. Evelyn breathes in slowly, the message sinking in. Yes. It's too late, but thank you. Her fingers press the keys without hesitation, the response blunt but genuine. She doesn't need to explain anymore. There's no need for more words. What he said, what he finally admitted, was enough. She places the phone face down on the table and doesn't look at it again. The finality of it feels calm, almost peaceful. The anger, the resentment, all of it just fades. From the next room, the soft sound of piano keys floats into the kitchen. Naomi is playing, her hands moving effortlessly over the keys, each note a careful reflection of the tranquility that now fills the house. Evelyn closes her eyes for a moment, letting the music wash over her. There's something about it, so simple, so pure, that feels like the life she's always wanted. A life free from the clutter of demands and expectations. One that is just hers and Naomi's. She stands and moves to the living room, her steps light. Through the open door, she watches Naomi, her head slightly tilted as she plays, the soft cadence of the melody matching the gentle rhythm of the morning. June's voice cuts through the stillness, offering a welcome distraction. "I've been thinking," June says, her tone playful yet thoughtful. "We need to get away. A weekend. Just the two of us. You, me, and some fresh air. No distractions." Evelyn smiles to herself, a small chuckle escaping before she answers. "Sounds like exactly what I need." There's no hesitation in her words. She deserves this, deserves the space to rest, to breathe. It's strange how much of her life has been spent in the background, working for others, and now there's a sense of deserving the quiet moments, the peace. Later, Evelyn sits at her desk, the sun beginning to rise outside. The first light of morning stretches into the room, casting long shadows on the walls. She opens her journal, the pages worn with years of reflection. This time, though, there's no bitterness in her hand as it writes. No more silence for the sake of suns. She reads the words again, letting them settle in her mind. For years she swallowed her own voice, put aside her needs for the sake of others, for the ones who never asked, never listened. But not anymore. Now her silence will be for herself. It will be the silence of peace, not resignation. The sun rises higher, the world outside beginning to hum with life, and for the first time in ages, Evelyn feels truly free. The weight of the past is gone, and in its place, there's a quiet strength, a sense of readiness for whatever comes next. She stands, gazing out at the early light, feeling the warmth on her skin. There's no bitterness left in her, only possibility. The future is unwritten, and this time, it's hers to shape. Howard handles it swiftly. His voice on the other end of the line is calm, professional, the finality of it settling between them like the closing of a door. It's dismissed before it's even reviewed, he says, the weight of his words leaving little room for interpretation. They have no legal grounds. Evelyn feels a quiet relief ripple through her, but there's no sense of triumph. The battle had already been fought, and the decision was inevitable. She doesn't need to attend the hearing. There's nothing left to prove. The message was clear, and she already knows the verdict. Instead, she steps onto the porch, the summer air warm on her skin as she settles into a chair with a glass of iced tea. Naomi joins her, the two of them sitting in comfortable silence, the world around them stretching out in the soft light of late afternoon. Naomi takes a sip of her own drink, her eyes reflecting the peace that Evelyn now feels as they sit together, the gentle hum of cicadas in the background. They don't speak much. There's no need for words right now. This moment of shared peace is enough. Just then, June arrives, her laughter carrying in before she even steps onto the porch. She's holding a small package wrapped in plain brown paper, a familiar twinkle in her eye. As she approaches, Evelyn stands to greet her, a smile tugging at her lips without thinking. "I've got something for you," June says, her voice playful as she hands over the package. Evelyn unwraps it slowly, revealing a new doormat with bold, cheerful lettering. It reads, "My name is still on it." Evelyn laughs, the sound warm and genuine. June always knows how to make her smile, always finds a way to bring lightness into the air when it's needed most. Evelyn sets the mat down with care, feeling the soft fibers under her fingers. "So is my life," she says, the words slipping out effortlessly, their truth resonating in the space between them. June grins, her eyes soft with understanding. They've both come a long way. The past may have tried to take so much from Evelyn, but here she is, stronger, unshaken. As the afternoon wanes, the two women share stories, laughter, and the kind of conversation that lingers in your heart long after the words have been said. The sound of their voices fills the porch, a comfortable hum of companionship. Later, as the house quiets for the evening, Evelyn sits alone at the dining table. The roast chicken sits golden and fragrant, the fresh bread still warm. There's something almost sacred in the silence, the way the evening unfolds. Just her and the meal she's prepared, no interruptions, no demands. It's a simple thing, but tonight, it's exactly what she needs. There's no rush, no expectations, just peace. Evelyn takes a bite, savoring the tenderness of the chicken, the warm satisfaction of the meal, and the stillness of the night. It's more than just food. It's a sense of completion, a quiet certainty that she's exactly where she needs to be. The day winds down, the house settling around her, and Evelyn feels a quiet strength in the simplicity of it all. Her mind drifts back to that day, the one she will never forget, at her husband's funeral, the mocking words of her daughter-in-law, the sting of them still fresh in her memory, the memory of crying, of the heartbreak, and then of standing up, her voice steady, her gaze unwavering, as she reminded everyone whose name was on every account they all depended on. Evelyn exhales slowly, the memory like a stone in her chest. But now, it doesn't hurt. It's just a reminder of how far she's come. A reminder of the strength it took to stand tall, even when the world tried to knock her down. At the end of it all, she's still standing. And that's all that matters.